Well, hello, hello. Just going live here on a Sunday afternoon for a little bit. Uh, Watched Al Red Sox, the chat last night. Caught the end of it and was able to get on for about 30 minutes or so and follow along and saw that just got me thinking about doing a video just really about maybe some of the editing, creating, home brewing, tweaking, customizing. Maybe that's the right word. All of those words and not really specific to any one game. In fact, I'd like to fire up all the games in some fashion today and really just kind of highlight what are some of the tips and tricks to editing action games. And one reason why I'm a big fan of all their sports is the ability to um, edit, even create from scratch, import and create your best what if seasons and projects. So we'll hang out and see if anybody pops on live, but that's what I'm going to talk about today. One thing, here's the site. If anybody's not familiar with Action PC Sports Game, to me, the best computer sim um, sports games on the market. You've got all four major sports, football, baseball, basketball, hockey. They also have golf. And the golf game is unique in its own way, and it's a blast as well. So I'm probably baseball, basketball, and then football are probably the main ones I rotate throughout the year. I'll do a little bit with hockey when it comes to my projects, but hockey I don't get around to playing because time's scarce. Free time is scarce, and it's hard to play them all at once. So it gives me an opportunity to move around and change things up a little bit. So I definitely enjoy it, and I'm hoping today, the last broadcast I did the other day, a couple days ago, I was midstream and something and lost my internet connection. So hopefully I don't have those issues today. But thought I would highlight that this weekend there's a really good sale going on um, with Action Games where I think if you spend at least $5, that's correct, just $5, they have, if we go to the shop here, they have things that sometimes are always free, but today I believe they have, let's take a look at specials and freebies. Any of these right now are free. You can see if there's a red number scratched out, that means those things are being given free this weekend if you spend at least $5. There's a two or three basketball seasons, really early ones, I think 49, 50, and 51 that I don't have. So I think I'm going to buy those. They're on sale for $7 a season. And then I can come over here, and I don't think I have the complete college football season. If you spend at least $5 this weekend, you get that for free. That's a $25 value. You can also get this 71-72 ABA season, 84-85 hockey, 91 baseball, 07-08 hockey. These are all ones that have red prices here that have a normal price, along with the ABL. Really can't beat that deal this weekend. It's a great one. Um, so problem is I own so much that it's hard when they have some of these great sales going on. So big proponent of action PC games. Again, I started off years ago with Status Pro, fast action cards. See, what did I have? Then I went into golf. I had the Masters version of the Sports Illustrated, right? The Avalon Hill Golf was a big game I played back in my early teen years and so on. Then I went Lance Hafner. Then I was Pursue the Pennant. What did it become? Diamond Mind. I was huge into Diamond Mind. APBA baseball for Windows in the 90s. But I'll tell you what, I always find um, I'm just loving the digital stuff, and actions are must own. There's a couple games I think with football. The two must owns if you're into computer sims are Action and I would say Second and 10, because Second and 10 is such a great game. It's basically board game switched over into a digital format, and you get all the seasons. There's tons of home brews. I mean, for value, and it's great gameplay too. Those are important. The other third one will be pro strategy football because it brings the unique visual element and some strategy. So to me, those three for football are must owns. Basketball, this is my go-to game. I love it. I had Cactus League, two different. In fact, I was looking on an old computer here a while ago. I had two different iterations of Cactus League basketball. So I think 2007 might have been the last one I had. Um, I didn't care for the interface. I just didn't do much for me. So the last few weeks, I've taken a break from baseball, gone over and started working on basketball. So I'm going to fire up probably basketball, and then I might move into the other ones. And if people come on live and want to see me demo anything, I say, hey, let me know what you're looking at because I'm happy to demo whatever you'd like. I've got my home brewed. And for those of you who don't know, the good homebrew stuff is stuff that you create on your own. And that's why I love Action. They give you the ability to go into the engine itself, create all the data, tweak things, edit players. I love having that kind of power, that the option to go in there and do that. So I created this 5-year franchise. I know Al mentioned it last night. I think this one's available at the Action PC Sports community site. Let me just highlight that. If anybody hasn't been here, this is a great site to go to. This is Action PC. Just type in Action PC Sports Community. This has a lot of great resources where people upload, call it some of the cool bells and whistles or window dressing. So if we look here at Action PC Basketball, I just updated some of my half-court park images. But if we click on images, let's click on basketball. Go to basketball images. And you can see here, they're all labeled. You've got different player photo packs. If you're going to replay a specific season, this is a great place to go start. There's also some here that will, here's WNBA team logos, pro basketball all seasons. Looks like it would updated in 2019. So if you wanted a complete all-time history photo pack, this is just a great site, and people are adding to this all the time. You can also come up under here in sounds. This is an interesting one, none specific for baseball or basketball, but I know under baseball and sounds, they have a great extra sound pack, and I downloaded this and augmented some of the sounds that the game has default, right? And that's a blast. So if we go to basketball and hit seasons, these are going to be seasons that you can't purchase, for example, that aren't offered by Action PC. And these are homebrewed. We can see Bill Bowers has put a ton of stuff in here on past college. In fact, I need to download these. Some of these are my favorite. 85, 86 college season, one of my favorite seasons. Um, but a lot of work done in here by home brewers and people creating a lot of good seasons. So here's another one, college greats. Mine right here, if anybody's interested, this was updated back in October. It's called 5-year franchise. You can download it right here. I'm going to highlight a little bit of that here, but then I'm also going to create a blank league and then walk through what it looks like to import players or create them from scratch and kind of set up a fun what if league. Um, and then I can even show you how I manually, because Al mentioned it last night, how if I had spreadsheets and import, there's no import tool to import like data that you have on a spreadsheet easily into the action games except for baseball. Baseball has a custom sheet you can download, fill out, and then put all your data in there and then upload it. To be honest, I have not messed around with that because I'm just kind of old school with opening up the forms and editing. See what else we got here. So let's take a look at football. Football seasons. And look at all this work that's been done here. So, Action sells a ton of seasons, but they pretty much go back to the official stats, meaning I think their football seasons will go back into the 90s complete. But you can see right here where somebody here like Rod Taylor's done Division II stuff. That's pretty cool, right? Even Division III. So there, big home brewing community with Action where there's a lot of people that are very active in creating some of the kind of the non-normal or the older ones that haven't been covered by Action themselves. Here's 1968 College. Interesting. Um, Football, same thing, right? We want extra sounds. Let's take a look at that. No extra sound files. Baseball, seasons. So Action offers almost every professional baseball season, but you can see here somebody's bringing in the Nippon Pro League. Zepp, another fellow home brewer like myself, has done a lot of work on with Action games. He's got some 3-year franchise runs here, and some international league and California league. I've also got probably need to update these, but I did my 5-year AL and NL files are available here, which it basically takes a team's 5-year run, looking for a really good kind of mini dynasty 5-year run. Excuse me, and then taking a player's best 2 years within that run, 2 consecutive years to average that line. Um, and that's something that I've enjoyed doing it, and I took that same approach over to football and to basketball, and then started with hockey, but didn't move on there. So if you haven't been to this site, this is a wonderful site right here. Um, to me, like when you buy any of the Action games, this is the first site you should come to, and I'll show you the second one. Not as laid out as pretty as this, but it's Sports Replay. So www.sportsreplays.net. This one, you might have to dig and search, but it's like digging through an old, chest that you forgot about. You just dig through there and you find some really cool things. This covers a lot of other games on here, ASG Golf's here, but under the download section right here, it has a link it'll take you to, and it has several for Action games. So if we look at basketball, we'll go by to page 5 here, and you really just have to read what it is. And you've got Action PC Golf right here. So there's tons of photo packs and course information. Action PC Hockey right here. Here's basketball. So, and I've even got some of my older stuff on here, and I'll tell you about that. So I went in here and just kind of made sure that I had all of the court images that were available, so that I have tons of court images if I'm setting up my leagues and stuff and I want to pick half court or full court. There's some great files in here, along with logos and things like that. Another cool thing is Adam Ginsberg right here has a bunch of these photos that I downloaded for full and half court sets. Um, this is another thing that a bunch of people in the Action community did, which is come up with a more pepped up version of a play-by-play file, meaning it's less stock, and they've replaced it with some more colorful language and variation and so on. So you could come down here and actually load that down and replace the regular play-by-play file with some of this stuff. And they've got an 11, 12, and a 14 version for that. That's something that you can check out. But again, here's some people doing in the 80s, different college teams. I know MSU Hoops did a ton of old school retro college teams. Here's Bill Bauer's work over here. What else we got? I have one that I did. Look, I did that over 10 years ago, and it was 1950 to 2004 great college teams. And I think some people have built off of that. And I also went and did my 1980s franchise best, which would be, I believe my methodology there was a player had to play at least 3, and could be 2 in a partial season, years for a franchise in that decade, and then I carded them. And I did that for like a 70s franchise file and an 80s. And you can see it's still been years ago I've done those, but those still work in the game great. So those are available here. But if you're an Action PC sim person, old school or new, and you haven't heard about these two sites, these are a great place to come and find some really, really interesting things. Hey Wayne, glad you're here. Yeah, I just thought today is I'm just going to do, because I get a lot of questions offline with some of my homebrew projects, people asking questions and people trying to do things themselves. I thought, why not just kind of come in and kind of a tutorial and be willing to walk through. Anybody have any questions live here? I'm happy to fire up any of the games and kind of walk through, whether it's kind of creating your own what if league, right? A blank one, importing teams, importing players, creating players, rating players. And then I'll walk through some of my methodology in I do so much what if. I create my Excel spreadsheets to crunch all my data and get my ratings, and then roll right into the build process. And some of the games have, I guess, easier, what am I looking at here? Formats for like entering it. It can be a little tedious, but I'm going to be walking through some of that as well. So let's pull one up. The other thing I was doing here earlier for my all-time greats basketball file that I'm currently homebrewing is different things like here. Some of the great places you can go get photos. I just come up and do a Bing or a Google search. I was looking up Jerry Sloan. I'll put Jerry Sloan Bulls photo or whatever in here. Look at some of the images that are available. I'll even go over here to like Getty Images and take a look at things. I might even pull up eBay and look at like player photos. So between the three, I really, there's a lot of opportunity to go and find player images. Here's my basketball file. The other thing that's cool is if you're in the game, let's pull up a team here. It's Boston team. Let's pull on a player. So, I could be looking at Quinn Buckner right here. And the nice thing about Action is right over here on the bottom right, it says Quinn Buckner on the web. If I click on that, it'll go ahead and open up. It'll say Quinn Buckner Basketball 1982 because it's going to look at whatever version I have there. And then I can come right over here and learn about him, or I can hit images, and here's some images that I can start grabbing if I wanted to find them. So even within the game, it's kind of nice to have this like hot button to go out and either learn more about him, whether it's Wikipedia. I find it useful. But when I'm doing creation, I kind of do that on my own outside with my sources. So, hey, Joe Murdy, welcome. It says, new to the game, I wondered if you noticed the zoom function not working right. I have not, but we can play with a little bit. When executing zoom during the game is not moving forward. Well, let's test one out right now. That's why I decided to come on. Maybe I can answer some questions live for folks. Again, this is a homebrewed file, but I can pull, let's do the Boston. They're right here. Let's pull up an exhibition game because I do use the zoom quite a bit when I'm entertaining myself with exhibition games. So let's pick the team we want to see. How about that Chicago team? Now let's take Denver from the 70s. Pick a date, fire it up. I'll let computer control Chicago. Here we go. I have noticed some similarity between the general background noise with baseball and with the basketball. I haven't messed with some of the basketball ambient noise or stuff, so I might have to do some of that. All right, here we go. They're going to fire up a game. Yep, they're over the roster limit. We don't care. So here's the Bulls. And again, I've got the ball movement set on, and I have it fairly quick because I don't mind it. Because like when there's a pause here, I can always look over here to the play-by-play and take a peek at it. In fact, maybe I could change the play-by-play a little bit. Let's go very large because I got a big screen here, so. All right, so here we go. We've got a little game action going on. Hey, this one lines up nicely as far as the green dot that I have on here. So let's say right now we're playing this game and I wanted to zoom to, let's see. I was looking at a video years about 6 months ago. It was working okay then. Cool, Joe, let's take a look. So a lot of times I may play a quarter or whatever and then say, you know what, it looks fun. Let me fast forward to a certain point. So let's zoom. to, I'm going to say fourth period with 6 minutes left. Okay. The one thing I will tell people, and if you're new and you hit that button to zoom and you sit here and you say it didn't do anything, you have to do something over here green. You either have to hit pass, CPU, or whatever, and that will trigger it going forward. So I don't know if that may be what it is, but let's take a look. Hit pass, and that should do the. It says zooming, please wait. And here we are. Now we're under 6 minutes. Cool. So now we're under 6 minutes right here, and it seemed to work fine. Didn't realize you were in basketball. Oh, well, you know what? Let's fire up baseball and check that one out. We'll come back to basketball. You can always exit out of a game at any time, or if you lose it, and then just another tip, and if you ever wanted to go back and pick that up, when you hit play, you have a chance over here to hit resume saved game, and when you do, it'll have a bunch of these. So this game, what was it? Who the heck was I just playing? It was somebody at Chicago. Oh, Denver at Chicago. So you'll see right here, I could go right back here, previous play or the most recent, click that quick, and then here I am right back into the game. So this is a little tip if anybody's new to action and didn't know it. If you click out of something or it shuts down, you can go back to resume game and it'll pick right up where it left off. So I'll say let's fire up baseball right here. See what season I've got here. Let's go. Pick 1980. Play an exhibition game. Let's go. San Francisco, Houston. See how this goes. And you can tell 1980. I don't have any of the good logos or anything set up here for this one yet. So we'll just computer versus computer it real quick. Boom, boom. Play ball. All right. Even got the default picture here. All right. So let's see what happens. So we got Houston. Let's see options. We can zoom. Oh, here. Where's my quick zoom options? Let's go right to the end of the 8th inning. Interesting with baseball, you hit zoom and it starts running the zoom. In basketball, as soon as you want to zoom, you're going to have to hit one of your green buttons down there to get it moving forward, which is typically, CPU or pass or shoot or wherever you happen to be. And it looks like everything's good. Let's take a peek at let's see here. Missing a right fielder. Okay. Bring one in. Can always hit computer by computer. And yeah, it looked like it worked. Now, I will tell you this. If we go to the About up here, well, I'll get out of this. It seems like it's working. Let me back out. If you go to your Help and then About, it'll tell you the version you're running. I just downloaded a patch yesterday that came out a couple days ago. It's the 6.9 patch. So maybe there was something, although I hadn't noticed Zoom not working for me. But if we go to, it's another thing I should pull up here. If we go to the Action Home site, they have service updates. You click on service updates, it will show you for baseball, you can see 6.9 right here. So if anybody has baseball, there's a public 6.9 patch out right here. I'm not sure though if I've ever noticed the Zoom not working. But this is a place to come, even if you have an older version. Like let's say you have an upgrade in the couple, at least you could go back here and say, well, was there a patch with my other edition? And I can get it up to date. In fact, my basketball's 323. I'll just have to make sure. Sometimes I forget if I've done that. About, oh, I've got a more current one. I've got 51623. Oh, and I think I know why. I think I'm beta test. I think I had an issue that I noticed on importing and doing some things that Action helped me out. So they may not have made this 5 a more current update yet, but there will be one coming because I do so much crazy stuff here, tinkering around, that I find things and I will ping headquarters every once in a while, and they do a great job actually of responding. But a lot of times people say, okay, how do you build all this data? I can tell you, like, here's a sheet I have. This is a big sheet for this all-time greats team, and there's a lot of things I do. I keep it in the order that the game needs this information so I can input it. And then I go out and independently, the game does a great job of giving it ratings, default ratings, because the majority of ratings are based off of actual numbers, their actual stats. But in some of the earlier years, I'm having to go in and get estimated turnovers and different things like that. So I have some formulas I use for that. And then I have an overall defensive rating here on a scale of 1 to 10, where I've looked at multiple sources that I use when I homebrew and research. And I do this for basketball or baseball, football as well. And I've got an overall defensive rating here so that if I have the action game, look at the stats and generate like default ratings, I can go back here and double check those ratings because sometimes they may reflect a reasonable assessment and sometimes not. For example, sometimes it may look at steals and things and attribute that to great defensive play, and sometimes it can. And other times you can have people that play great defense and don't really go for the steal. So there's several resources I look at, and this is just kind of my average of based on the years I'm going to use. So you can see in this all-time greats, for example, I've got Mo Cheeks and I'm using 81, 82. If I'm looking at those years, I've got him at an 8.9 on his defense. So just a little insight into the sheet. So I spend a lot of work at basketball reference and all these sites, and then I get all of my information I want on a sheet, and then I'm ready to build in the game off of the sheet. That's kind of how I do things. So I spend a great deal of time at, let's pull this one up, all the reference sites. If people don't know, another tip, if you're in here looking for averaging, because there's math involved, right? So I look for ways I can easily do that. So let's go to the basketball site and I'll give you an example. Let's say I want to, when I'm creating this, who's a player I haven't done yet? That's an example. I'm trying to think of somebody. Oh, here's one. How about Reggie Miller? Let's use Reggie Miller. Let's say I'm getting ready to create an all-time great version of Reggie Miller, right? I can get all of my data I need here if I'm creating the player from scratch in the game, meaning I can get height, weight, nicknames, because Action lets me put those in, uniform number. But when I determine what season am I going to use, right? Am I going to pick 3 or 4 seasons here, kind of as a peak, his best, and card him? What do I do? So I usually start down here under advanced, and I just cycle by the efficiency rating, which just kind of gives you an example of, I call it's player efficiency, but I kind of call it per for performance. And you can see that based on this category, his best seasons would be 90, 89, 90, and 93. But look how close some of these are, right? It's like 95, 94, 96. He's all pretty close right there. So I'll go back up here, for example, and take a look at the totals and maybe look at, okay, what's he got going on here? Which ones am I going to pick? So let's say I take 89, 90, 93. I can come over here under totals, and right here under share and export, I love doing this. I can go to modify this table. I modify it, and this lets me, what did I say, 89? So I can delete all the ones I don't want to look at. I can go 89, 90, 93, delete all the rest, and now hit close. And now all I'm looking at right here are these. Those are the three I'm going to use to average his stats. And this is a great tool within the basketball and baseball references for the kind of work I do, right? Because I'm not taking an existing season and just importing them into like an all-star team, which you could do if you own all the action seasons. Um, um, you could sit there and make your own stuff, right? But I'm going to bring in, 1961 Wilt Chamberlain, and I'm going to bring in, 1976 Dave Cowens, whatever. But the stuff I do, I'm averaging and creating custom stat lines. So this is a valuable tool for me where I can come here and I can drag all of this information over onto have an Excel tab where I can average all of this out. The next thing I'll do, let's say I'm going to take a player that's all over the place. The other thing I can do is I have an Excel spreadsheet that lets me know. Say I'm going to go, I would average 89, 90, and 93, and I would average those 3 years and find the average year, which for this would be probably 91, and that's what I'll assign Reggie Miller to in 91. But since I'm assigning him to 91 and he's got years that have varied, I will neutralize or normalize all of his stats towards the year I've assigned him to. And that way the game engine can view everything he's done like he came from 91 and do all the cross era stuff it needs to. It's a little bit more involved. I don't mind doing it because I'm into that level of accuracy. But how do I do that? Well, I've got another sheet over here that I use, which has all of my era data. So I can come to era data and take a look. For example, I could come in here and say, well, if I've got, what is it, take 93, 92 or whatever, and you can see field goals attempt per game and so on. So if I adjust him to 91, it could result in maybe he gets a couple more field goals attempt per game, or I mean, like 5% more or less, fouls, all that stuff. So that way, all of the data is normalized. Another easy way to look at that, if you're a sports nerd like many of us are, is you could just go right up here under all seasons and look at league averages because it's all right there too. So I've got ABA or NBA. So I could click NBA, take a look at what do we have, 89, 90, and 93. And you can see, as an example, we've got 84.4. So we're really it's probably about 86.2 is the average, right? So if I put him in 91, let me figure that. So his average of 86.2. So I would have a multiplier of 1.01. So he'd get a 1% bump if I have him assigned to 92. So that's just an example of how I do that for all the categories. If you've got players that I'm using their best 3 or 4 years, and one's from 60 and one's from 70, and they're wider, this becomes a little bit more impactful. Meaning that if you look at some of the field goals attempted per game, here in the 70s, it's 90, and then you go back into the early 60s and it's, 107, and then it's 100. So there's a variation if I'm using a 61, 69, and a 72 season for a player. So to me, it's important to average those